Look, I'm talking about something that's not Star Trek. Welcome back to Roll and Review, where we talk about all things nerdy and awesome. I'm Peter, and today I'm actually talking about a video game. So the game that I'm going to be talking about is called It Takes Two. You may have seen this game appear on your feeds recently. It was released on March 26th of this year, 2021, and when I saw the trailer, I thought, gee, this looks really interesting. Then I looked more into it, and it's a cooperative game, like exclusively cooperative. You can't play it by yourself. That even more intrigued me because I'm kind of a sucker for cooperative games. I've tried to play things like Wolfenstein Youngblood with some of my friends. We don't get very far, and sometimes it just glitches out because of how Steam Share works, but that's neither here nor there. But it's actually pretty entertaining, and one of the nice things about it, as compared to some of the other co-ops that I've seen, is it's not a survival game and it's not a shooter game. So there's a lot more going on than just that. This game actually, it does have a shooter level, but it's actually very dynamic. A lot of the goals and how you play the game changes depending on what level you're in, and that I find very, very fun. So both players, you play as a husband and wife who are going through a divorce. We'll get to the story in a minute, but you play the game with complementary abilities. So it's not like you both have, a gun and another gun and you're just blasting bad guys. You have complementary powers all the time, whether it's a hammer and nails, so someone has to pound things into place and the other one has to throw nails to either hold something there or so you can swing on it. Water and plants, or the shooter bit, sap and matches. You spray sap on something and fire matches on it, and then the sap explodes. It's pretty great. Another fun thing about this game is it's full of references to all sorts of goofy stuff. It's actually very entertaining when you're sitting there going, is that a reference to something? And then they'll say something or something will happen. You're like, that is totally a reference. And that's hilarious. There's a reference to Terminator 2 with, going down into the lava with the thumb up. They did that shot. It's really funny. Mario Kart. There's even a Stargate reference. There's a whole level where it's basically a Stargate reference. So the writing can sometimes be a bit campy, but it's fun. Who cares? So the story is about a couple who is divorcing. Cody and May are the names. Their daughter, Rose, doesn't want this to happen, obviously. And so she finds a book about love by a Dr. Hakim. And then she hopes that maybe she can try to help her parents become friends again. What ends up happening is that her parents get turned into two little dolls that she's made. And, it's a little more nuanced than that, but I'll leave it there because in the story, if you get it, it's interesting. But they're forced to go through, and when I say forced, literally forced, the book becomes alive and talks to you. And I want to say harass, but that sounds bad, but he goes around and forces you to do things and is kind of ridiculous about it. The purpose of this is to basically go through relationship building exercises to help their understanding of collaboration, as he puts it. So you learn how to collaborate, the mechanics of complementary powers working with each other. There's also, in the story, where the characters work through some of the misunderstandings that they have with each other and some of the problems that they have with each other, and working through some of their selfishness too. And then towards the end, they're actually working on how to support each other in their dreams. So it's pretty solid in its story. I won't spoil it for you since, it only came out recently, but it's a fun little story filled with a lot of zaniness that at least kept me entertained the whole time. The game mechanics are pretty good. They change through most of the levels. So you keep some abilities from level to level. Like there's one where you are able to jump and then use like a cable rappel thing. So like you can grab things and pull yourself to it. And that ability basically stays the same. And also like riding rails. You can do that the whole time once you learn how to do it. The camera is sometimes a little wonky, especially when you're trying to jump up walls, because then it'll stay at like 1 point away from the wall and you're trying to get the angle right, but you still have like 3-dimensional movement. But so you'll sometimes hit the wrong button and you'll like come forward and fall off the wall. So that can be a little frustrating, but for the most part, you have full control of the camera and you can figure out how to make things work. As I said, it's cooperative, so you have to work together to solve the puzzle. There's no way for one player to like hold on to the coattails of the other and just kind of coast along. You have to actively work together to get this game to work and to solve any of the puzzles. It's about collaboration, just like it says on the tin. There are a lot of mini games to play as well. You can find them, they're kind of scattered throughout the various levels. Like you have to hunt for them sometimes, so I haven't found all of them. Most of them are pretty fun. Some of them can be a little irritating and you just like play it once and you're like, I'm done. But generally they're entertaining and a fun little diversion while you're in the middle of a mission. The graphics are pretty nice. It's not going for super realistic, which makes sense since some of this stuff is things that can only exist in your imagination. So the aesthetic it's going for works and looks pretty great. There's occasionally some clipping problems, and the hair sometimes doesn't look right a few times, mainly on the squirrels. But generally, it's pretty solid. All of the environments are pretty imaginative and look really interesting. You start in a shed, you work your way around through various imaginative areas, and you end up in a space station, you end up in a clock. There's a lot of interesting places where you are. Some of them are a little weird, and some of them are pretty busy, but they're all really interesting to look at. Sometimes the game goes a little bit out of its way to be like, oh, look, it's pretty, isn't it? Having the characters tell you that. But, you know, a little bit of back padding here and there is fine. But it looks pretty great. All in all, this game took my brother and I about 15 hours to complete, so there's not tons of main story gameplay, but I'm sure that we didn't find or do absolutely everything you can do. It didn't get all the achievements, so I know we didn't. So it's not a terribly long game, but it is fun. So ultimately, if you've got the money and a friend to play with, pick it up. It's definitely worth it. One thing that is good to note is that only one of you needs to own it. It has a Friends Pass version to downloads. You can invite a friend to play with you, and they don't need to own the game. They just install a friend's version, you invite them to your game, they join, you play. That's it. You don't need to buy it. Well, you don't need to buy 2 copies. And that's actually really good because it's a collaborative game. It requires 2 players. Why would they have to force you to buy 2 copies? You know? Good move on their part. I appreciate that. One downside to that is even if you pick it up on Steam, it is an EA original game, so you do need to load Origin in order to get it to run and in order to invite your friend. So your friend does need an Origin account as well. It is what it is, but it's something that should be noted. But It Takes Two is a great game, definitely worth the money in my opinion. If co-op's not really your style, I mean, don't have to play it, but you can always just pick it up on sale and give it a shot, or you can always just get a friend's pass and mooch off one of your friends and enjoy the references. Anyway, that's all I've got for today, so I will see you guys later. Welcome back to Roll and Review, where we talk about all things nerdy and awesome. I'm Peter, and today I'm actually talking about a video game. Really? It would be helpful if I had the mic not muted when I start recording.